Hello everybody, I'm the Barebow Brummie. Today we're going to talk about draw length. This video comes as a result of a conversation I had with one of the members of my club who were asking my advice on buying some new arrows. They needed to know what spine length they needed, what length of arrow they needed, and I usually give my usual answer to that kind of question, and that's simply measure to your AMO and make the arrows 2 to 3 inches longer so you can tune them in at a later date. But she was a bit confused by the answer I gave her because she didn't really understand what draw length was, what AMO was. I know that's hard to believe, but that's a fact. So what I thought I'd do is this quick video and explaining what draw length is, why it's important, why it's really crucial that you know accurately what your draw length should be. It's even vital to know that for when you buy your own arrows, also when you're buying yourself a bow, because your draw length is crucial to what size bow you need. Now, there are two types of draw length. There is your true draw length and there's your AMO draw length. AMO stands for Archery Manufacturers Organisation, and it's the standard that archery retailers use when selecting arrow spine and arrow length for your particular draw length. I'll go into the details of what AMO is later in the video. Okay, so what is draw length? Draw length is very simply the distance between the deepest recess of your grip and your string, or the distance from the centre of your plunger hole to your string while at full draw. Now, I know that to measure your draw length at full draw on your own is quite a difficult thing to do, but in a little while I'll show you how to do it on your own or with somebody else if you need to do that. Okay, so what about if you've got a bow that hasn't got a plunger hole? If you, let's say you shoot off the shelf with a kind of hunting bow and it doesn't normally have a plunger in it, so you've just got a straight face. Well, that's quite simple. All you do is you measure the distance between the recess of your grip to the string and then transfer that measurement from the string at your knock point across to there, put a little bit of masking tape on the facing like I've done there, and just draw a line at the same distance as the recess to the grip is, and then when you start to draw back and you can use an arrow to measure the distance, you've got an accurate line to measure the distance from. Now, there are a couple of ways you can measure your draw length. Let's start with the basic one, probably the vaguest way of doing it, not the most accurate way at all, and that's simply the wingspan method. All you do is you put your arms out to the side, don't stretch too much, just keep your hands nice and relaxed, nice and straight, and you measure the distance between your two longest fingers, which will be those two there. You're probably going to have to get somebody else to do this because it's really difficult to hold a tape measure across your arms at this angle. So get somebody else to measure it for you. Once you've got that distance, you divide that number by 2.5, and that gives you a rough estimate of where your draw length should be. Once you come to the other methods, if there's a big variation between those two draw length distances, then you need to go and speak to your coach because there's something wrong with your draw. Maybe you have a short draw, maybe you have an overextended long draw. Most people tend to have a shorter one and they collapse on it, so their draw length needs to be pretty consistent. But that's a good start point. Start with the fingers, hands apart, measure between the two longest fingers, divide it by 2.5. That will give you a start point for your draw length. Now, a more accurate way is to use an arrow that you know is longer than your draw length, if you have one. Simply draw back, just simply draw back your bow to full draw, just like that. Then get somebody just to mark your arrow right where the plunger button meets the arrow, just like that. Now, you're best doing this 3 times because your draw length can sometimes vary a little bit, and just take the average distance between each of the 3 marks. Okay, so once you've got the mark on your arrow that you need, all you need to do is measure the length of the arrow to your mark. That will give you a fairly accurate draw length measurement, but you measure from this point here, not from the end of the nock, from where the string is going to sit at the base of the recess of the nock. that's the accurate place to measure it from. Now, the most accurate way to measure your draw length is simply with a draw length measuring tool. These are available from your local archery retailers. The major manufacturers produce them, and they're simply an unfletched arrow that's got a knock at one end and a series of markings down the shaft at the other end. Now, these cost between £5 and £10 each, but if you're a member of an archery club, they've probably got one in their stock somewhere, so you can probably borrow theirs and use that one to do your draw length measurement. It's simply a case of attach it to your bow, draw back, get somebody to have a look at the markings at that end to see how long your draw length actually is, as we've already been through before. But me being me, I decided I was going to make my own because I don't want to give people money for something I'm probably only going to use once or twice a year. So what I did was I made one out of a piece of dowling. It's got a knock at that end. At the other end, it's got a series of markings. And that end, I've mounted at 1/2 inch increments. All the way down, goes from 20 inches to 35. And it does exactly the same job. It cost me nothing. But the trouble is, if you are drawing your bow back like this, you can't see what the measurement is at this end of the measuring device. So you're going to need either somebody else to look at it for you, or another way of being able to see what the measurement is, because you can't see it from down this end. I'll show you how to do that right now. Now what I've got here is I've mounted my camera onto a stand at about eye level height. Now I happen to have a proper stand for it there, but you don't really need to do that. All you could do is just mount your camera on a windowsill or on a shelf, or if you have one of those in-car mobile phone holders that sticks to your windscreen, you could stick one of those onto a window and mount it on that. You don't need anything special. You could do it just like that. Alternatively, you could get somebody else to hold the camera for you if you can find someone. Then, once you've got your phone mounted, go to your camera settings, set your camera to a 10-second delay photograph, and then all you do is mount your arrow measuring tool on your bow, press start on your camera, and you have 10 seconds to get yourself into full draw. Draw back, wait for the camera to click, and then draw down again, set it again. I would do this 3 times so you get 3 separate photographs, and then you can compare the difference and take the average measurement, like in the previous method, take the average measurement from all 3 to get what is your most accurate draw length. And it's as simple as that. Now what I've done is I've put down on my whiteboard here exactly what my measurements are, and you can see the slight variation between them. On the wingspan measurement, my wingspan is 61 inches. You divide that number by 2.5, it gives you 24-inch draw length. Yes, I've got quite a short draw length. I've only got little arms, but hey. On the arrow marking measurement, it comes out at 24.5 inches, and the draw length tool comes out exactly the same at 24.5 inches. So I'm going to work with the 24.5 inches as my more accurate draw length. Now, from that, you've got your true draw length measured, but then you need to know what your AMO draw length measurement is. And what I've done down here, your AMO draw length measurement, you simply add 1 3/4 inches to your true draw length to give you your AMO draw length. This takes into account the thickness of the riser in your bow. It makes sure that the arrow passes your clicker and goes past the end of your bow, but only just. You've got to get it to that clicker, so when you pull back and your clicker goes, that's going to be the right distance length of your arrow. We'll talk about more about arrows in the next video, because this number here, or that number there, is the most important one when choosing both arrows and a bow. I've been the Barebow Brummie. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe and like. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.